Hello friends and welcome. So you're gonna want, for today's sequence, if you join me for this sequence, it's gonna be upper back opening. We're also gonna move into some strength and move towards bow pose. But that said, I'll have plenty of modifications along the way. You can still get great benefits without actually having to go up. We are going to use 2 blocks in the beginning of the sequence, and towards the end we're going to have 2 blankets, or it could be a couch pillow, something that boosts you up. So if you want to pause and get those items and then come on back. And by the way, I'm going to show this first opening on the blocks, but if that feels too extreme, you could lay 1 or 2 blankets underneath your torso and lay on those, and it's not going to be quite as extreme of an opening, right? And if you're like, well, then I'm going for the most extreme, why don't you hold your horses and find out what your body tells you? One of them is on the medium setting, long way, right? Facing the short edge of my mat. The other one is on tall, with the long way of the tall version, facing the long edge of the mat. So from there, I put my buttocks in front of that, and it may take a couple of times coming down. I'm pretty familiar with it, so I usually come down pretty close, but that doesn't mean I get it every time, right? I want my bottom tips of my shoulder blades to touch the top edge of that first block and get caught and pushed up. And then I bring that other block underneath my head so my head is fully supported. Now I'm going to lift my hips. You know, I'm pretty good with low back sensitivity these days, but I like to keep it that way and help protect it, right, and support it. So if I reach my buttocks flush forward and then set my butt down, I don't have quite as much of that arch, which for some of us feels extreme. My arms, think Shavasana, but in this position, I find my hands come up a little higher, more towards the teed out position for my shoulders to kind of soften down into this. I am going to walk my feet wide and lean my knees in. You could also extend your legs out to straight. One is not better than the other. Where are you going to be able to soften the most without your body having to hold on to protect? And we're going to be here for a few breaths. It's, you know, still think of this as beginning awareness. We just happen to be in a restorative pose, right? And we're supported in a pretty big chest opening. So again, if this feels like too much, this is where you'd take the blocks out and you'd put a blanket or 2 underneath you, maybe a support for the head, a little pillow, and you would lay on that. Check into your body and find out where you're starting from. Pardon me. So many of you are Walla Walla based, but many of you are not. We are having cold mornings here, and so I'm still all bundled up so that I don't get cold until I start to move into that heat, aka tapas. We will build tapas in a little bit. Does your breath change at all when your chest is opened in this manner? How? Maybe it feels more difficult to breathe. Maybe it feels like it's more accessible. How do the shoulders feel in this position, etc.? Yeah? Do you get agitated? So now we're talking about like emotional. Is it calming, exhilarating, uplifting, like check in? And then we'll stay here with our awareness and our breath for about 4 more breaths or so. Let your body melt down around whatever setup you have. So So now to come up out of this, we're going to put our feet on the ground if you're not already there, right? You're going to bring your elbows and you can turn your palms down, take an inhale, and you can kind of push a little into your hands, but also use your abdominals and keep your chest lifting. Your head is the last thing to come up once you arrive. And just notice the effects of that, yeah? You can move those blocks off to the side, have them towards what will be the front of your mat. We'll use them again in a little bit. And then let's come into hands and knees. And I'm not going to be here long. Usually I'm a knee supporter. If I were on hardwood floor, I might still. But we're just going to do about 3 cat-cows just to move the spine after that big opening. I am full of yawns today, I tell you. Now for this next piece, you're going to walk your hands forward. Actually, I'm going to switch my position because my microphone is clipped on my other side. That way, hopefully, every time I look over, you're still getting my voice. We're going to come into half downward dog, right? So the first piece is half downward dog. And I can have my hands mat distance or shoulder distance, whichever one makes the most sense in my body this early in the practice, right? We're going in pretty big ways first thing here. So, make sure it's right for you. As you push down, tone the abdomen and the low ribs up. And just start to say hi to that upper back. Walk your hands back, and you might want to see this. It's been a while since we've done it, all right? Or if you're newer to my teaching. We're going to bring our hands together. We want our elbows to be about shoulder distance, and if you don't know how to determine that, bring your hands, and you want your arms upper arm bones will come into your hands, right? And then you interlace your hands from there, and then we'll do the same move that we just did. So I'm gonna move a little forward with my whole setup here, so that as I push myself back, right, I'm moving almost towards a half downward dog, but my arms are in a different position. I push down mightily into my hands, my fingers, my arms, up to my elbows anyway, and I pull that upper back in, right? I still have to tone my abdomen because mine will flare every time if it gets the opportunity. And then we'll come up out of that. Okay, so start with those elbows down. Bring your hands onto your upper arm bones and make sure you're about shoulder distance apart, somewhere around there. Hands come together and you interlace your fingers and then push down, right? Now, if you need to move your knees back a little bit, you can move your knees back, but the butts doesn't have to stay, the buttocks don't have to stay over the knees this time. Go ahead and push down through your pinky fingers, through your wrists, through your forearms, everything that you can manage to push down through. The forehead can come down to or towards the ground, depending on your neck. Let that upper back gently move towards the chest, and the chest melts forward, but the ribs and the belly don't, right? So gently tone the ribs, the low ribs, and the belly up towards the spine, even as your chest tries to melt down. And breathe. Notice where you feel this. If there's pain, get out. You can push your shins down, and that often helps tone through that abdominal area. And come on up with your forehead, walk your hands back, and go ahead and just take a child's pose. It might feel nice after all that upper back work to have your arms by your side, forearm coming down, forearms, or it might feel nice just to have them out in front of you with the elbows wide, hands coming in. But soften for just a couple of breaths. Let the back round for just a little bit here. Another yawn for you. Sorry about that. And then bring your hands by your knees and go ahead and push yourself up. We're going to come into forward fold. Curl your toes under, push your buttocks up, and walk your hands back. You'll end up at the back of the mat. Grab your elbow points, soften down in, and just take a couple of moments hanging here. So check into that neck. Make sure you're not grabbing on. Check into those shoulders. Don't worry about straightening the legs right now. Let it be about the spine getting as long as it possibly can. And now we'll add in the hamstring stretch. So now you can drop your fingers to the earth if they can make it, or they could be on blocks. Go ahead and gently, I don't like saying straighten the legs because I don't think we're mindful when we do that, right? Push your heels down in order to reach your buttocks up
And voila, hopefully we are very squarely in our center of our hamstrings. Somewhere around there. It might be a different spot for you. Take another breath. My neck got all tense again, so I'm going to soften my neck and my shoulders. Hands on the shins, reach the chest forward, halfway up. Tone the abdomen. Hands on hips, elbows up. Come on up. All the way to standing. Now, I'm going to run out of camera for a second because I'm realizing there's a sequence I wanted to do with a strap. So if you need to get a strap, go ahead and get a strap. And we're going to do Gomukhasana arms. So what that is, right, is you're going to have the strap loose and go ahead and put said strap over your right shoulder. I'm coming. And then from that place, you're going to bring your right hand up and you're going to grab onto that strap, just somewhere. Don't worry about this arm quite yet. You're going to bring that left hand back, palm away from you, and grab onto that strap. Now, if you can get your fingers, all the power to you, but most of us can't. And even though I used to do that, I was pushing my shoulder into a really terrible inward rotation and not doing a lot of help to my shoulder. So I gave that up. So go ahead and let that elbow move in, that right elbow, and then let it move up to the sky. You can even gently take that left hand and pull on the strap lightly to help that action, right? And then you may or may not creep the hands a little closer together with that action, maybe not. That's not the goal. The left shoulder, this is the one for me that wants to roll in so bad. So I'm working against that. I'm trying to flatten my shoulder blade as if I was still laying on the blocks, right? I'm trying to find that bottom tip and move it forward and into my chest and open that up. And go ahead and take a breath from there. Take two, actually. One more at different times. Yeah. So funny. And go ahead and release that left arm down and up. Reach the right arm up. And exhale, bring those arms out and down. Bring the strap to the left shoulder. And then go ahead and bring that hand up and grab the strap, left hand. Bring the right hand back and grab the strap. And then from there, working the left elbow first. So we're going to work that left elbow into the face and then up. And again, it's the right hand can gently pull on the strap as a little added help to maybe bring that in. Try to stay out of the upper trap. Maybe creep the fingers together a little bit. Don't let that be your goal that they have to touch. And again, that right shoulder, can you try to flatten that right shoulder blade, that scapula? So if I work from my back body, which is part of the reason we were on those blocks, we're going to keep coming back to that, right? Think of that bottom tip of the shoulder blade about on the opposite side of where this finger is of my body. I'm going to move it forward and try to open my chest. And in doing that, this shoulder begins to open, hopefully. Take two breaths. Inhale. Ujjayi, we started working with that last week. Exhale. Coming back to it. I teach it along the way here and there, right? Inhale. And exhale. We're going to release the right arm first and reach it up. Reach the left arm up and go ahead and reach that all the way around. Take that strap off to the side. And then just to get into a little bit of movement, right? Bring your fingertips up to your shoulders. And then just go ahead and do the backstroke, right? As if you were in water. And if that traumatizes you, don't worry, you're not in water, right? And for my friends who love the water, like go into that visualization. I mean, if you have trauma around water, what a great place to try to work with that in a really gentle way, maybe. And then go ahead and go the other way, but don't push yourself into something you're not ready for ever, 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 ever. Right? But not being in water and imagining it might be a way to start to release some of that, maybe. And then from there, go ahead and come on back to center. Bring those arms down. So now you can do that one again, or you might go into the full arm, moving through the backstroke. I'm going into a little twist in my torso. I have a really soft bend in my knees so that I don't tweak my knees every time I turn my upper body. And then reverse that when you're ready and do the crawl, so to speak. And again, let the body turn with it today. And let it just be a nice, loosey-goosey kind of movement. And then come on back to center. So now, interlace your hands behind you, right? And I want you to try to push the palms together, including that far edge, that pinky edge heel of the hand section, and try to see if those can come together. And if they can't, that's okay. Use a strap, right? And from there, bend the elbows. Now, see if your elbows can come together behind you and kiss. Ha, 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 ha. Right? But when you do that, what happens in your upper body? Can you take those shoulder blades like you were still on the block? Can you pull them a little down and in? Don't overdo that for some of my friends, right? And see if that melting of the chest, right? Can those shoulder blades help gently move the chest forward and lift it up without ribs flaring? Maybe the knuckles reach down and you straighten the arms a little bit, but that's not the end all be all. It's more about the opening you're getting right now in the chest. And then for a little bit of strength in the upper body, back body, can you imagine that I put a strap around your wrists and push out into that strap and notice how that upper back lights up? Yeah? And my ribs want to flare so bad, so I'm trying to find that happy medium where I can do this work and not flare my ribs. I want that opening to go higher in my spine. I don't want it to be so low and at that juncture, that really important juncture of the thoracic and the lumbar. And then go ahead and release the arms down. Now we're going to take those blocks and put those blocks on high. I'm going to remove my socks so I don't slip and slide. And we're going to go into pyramid in 2 variations today. The first one, just let's say hi to the hamstrings. So step your feet between the blocks-ish, hands on the hips, a little bit of elbow back without ribs flaring. Bend the knees and step the left foot back. It's your shorter distance. You want that heel to really go back so that hip, that left hip, can be forward. I don't talk from the pelvis often. I don't know that that's a wise thing to do because people get really rigid, but this is one pose where we do want the hips to be parallel to the front edge of the mat, one of the few standing poses, right? And from there, you're going to go ahead and you're going to really straighten both legs, pull that right kneecap up, start to fold over those legs. And if you need to bend the right knee to get your fingertips on the blocks, do it, right? Once you get onto the blocks, don't go lower, come higher, right? Push into the block with your hands, your fingers, whatever you're working with, and lengthen your spine. Come back to trying to straighten the right leg and work that right hip back. Doesn't have to be all the way straight, it's just working towards straight. Left heel, if that pushes down more, can your chest reach further forward? Can your abdomen tone to the spine? Take an inhale. Some of my friends, that's plenty. Some of my friends, we're going to fold in a little more. We might change the level of the blocks. We might just bend the elbows. Feel free to bring hands to ground, etc. Might soften that chin into the chest, everybody, so that you don't have so much rigidity in your neck. And really find your foundation. All 3 corners of both feet pushing it down, right? That's that tripod. I guess one of them's not so much a corner, the very center of the heel, but hopefully that makes sense. Take another breath from there. And then reach the chest forward. Go ahead and put your hands on your hips, toning that abdomen in, right? That solar plexus from 2 and 3 weeks ago. And we step that left foot forward. Wonder if your right hamstrings feel different than your left. And I wonder if your left calf feels different than your right. You should be curious too. Should, I don't like that word. You could be curious. Get nice and tall, bend those knees and step that right foot back. Shorter distance. Again, that right heel, really reach it back so that right hip can move forward, and hopefully we can get our hips parallel to the short edge of the mat, right? Inhale and get tall. Keep those ribs in even as you start to fold in. I'm going to bend my left knee a little bit so I don't hyperextend it. That tends to be that's my tendency. Now, once you get to the blocks, we're going to get longer in the body, right? So don't go lower, get higher. Push the right heel down and reach the chest forward, tone the belly in. Go ahead and see if you can work that left leg towards straight anymore without pushing past an edge. Left hip moving back. And some of my friends, this is exactly where you should work from, right? Be honest here. And then some of us, we might fold in a little further. The more honest we are with our body, the more benefit we get from these practices, right? The more we can move towards health and wellness. And that's not just your physical body.
All the times I tried to tell myself, like, no, I'm fine, I can do this, and trying to push myself into something. That's mental too, right? And it goes beyond just my yoga practice. That's okay. I can work until wee hours in the morning and not do sleep. I don't really need sleep that bad, right? Inhale, reach the chest forward, come halfway up, tone the belly up, hands on the hips, elbows up. Inhale the body up, step the right foot forward. The next piece goes like this. We're kind of just getting into some big stuff right off the bat, right? You have choices. You can bring knuckles together. You can grab forearms, which will bring the elbows in a little more. You can bring your palms together behind you in what we call reverse namaste, reverse prayer, right? And then you can see I can't quite get my palms all the way together, but that is the work that I am trying towards. And I can still work the pose, and it works my wrists quite well, right? If you have wrist sensitivity, you would probably just do fists together. So whatever you got pushed together, right, palms or fists, go ahead and push those together. And see if you can roll those shoulder blades down the back, imagining you were still on the blocks that we started on at the beginning of class. Bottom tips of shoulder blades getting caught by the block, reaching forward to the chest, all of that without the ribs flaring. Now we're going to bend the knees and step the left foot back. And I'm not going to go through intensely, but it's the same lineup, right? That left heel back, left hip forward. I might bend my right knee a little bit as I begin to enter. Again, that's hyperextender, or if you know how to work with hyperextension by just, really working that calf forward, do that. But otherwise, take the bend for a hot second till you get in. Now work the right leg towards straight a little more, pulling the kneecap up, chest forward. This one we're not going to fold in as much. We're also getting that solar plexus work while we're here. The more my outer left heel pushes down, the more my spine can lengthen, and the more I can find my corset, right? Take another breath from here. Shoulders still lifting. And then inhale, coming up. We're going to keep our hands where they are, stepping forward. If you grabbed your forearm, switch the grab, right? Otherwise, just stay where you are, hands. Bend the knees. Work the right foot back, heel back, hip forward. Right? Don't flare the ribs, but keep those shoulders open. Your hands are right about where that juncture for some of us really wants to give forward, right? So keep that long and open the upper back. That left knee can bend a little bit and come in only as far as you can go and keep your spine straight today. That's where we're working from for today. Working that left leg towards straight, pulling the kneecap up. And again, now pay attention to that right heel. If I really root through that heel mightily, I can find my corset and I can lengthen my spine here. Crown of the head is reaching out. If you need a break, you can bring chin into chest. Otherwise, the whole spine elongating here. And it's a lot to hold it here, I know. Shoulders lifting. Inhale, coming up. Stepping right foot forward. Bringing arms down, taking some scapular cars or just rotating the shoulder blades. Go the other way. We'll get the wrists in just a second, especially my friends with reverse prayer, right? That's a lot for the wrists. Circle the wrists. If you're not looking at me, that's what I'm doing. And then maybe a little shake if that doesn't feel like too much. You can let them go right to left and up and down or all around or whatever works, but just go ahead and move those wrists and those fingers around and shake that out. Okay, so we're going to the last piece of this. So you can move those blocks off to the side. I have a long fold on the blankets. I'm mimicking a bolster, and actually we used to take two bolsters and put them together with straps to get even higher for this. Actually, no, put them off to the side for one. I want to do one bridge first, sorry. So have them on standby. We're almost there. Come down onto your back. So this is going to be one of the modifications. We'll all do this one together to prime us for it. And then some of my friends might just do this again, right? So from there, go ahead and lift the hips. If you can interlace, take the interlace and rock your shoulders underneath you, right? And then go ahead and push down to lift the chest and breathe into those ribs. Now imagine that work of when you were laying on the block. I guess it wasn't that much work, but when you were laying on the blocks and the shoulder blades, we're getting that extra little love from the block, helping the bottom tips open the chest, right? Take another breath from there and come on down.
So you could do that again. Otherwise, roll to the side. Come in with that prop. And then watch me for a second, right? We haven't done this in a while in class. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to lay over that. And I want my body to be just a little bit propped up, right? I have this little bit of height. I can soften my shoulder blades down, depending on the length of your body and your prop. Maybe the head falls back over it, but maybe not. Just depends, and it's okay if it's on it. Yeah? So you just want to feel supported for a few breaths. Now we're going to move towards bow. So for some of us, we might bring the hands down, right? Next to the ears, fingers pointing towards the shoulder direction. And that might be what we do. And we might just really gently push into the feet and the hands and feel what that might be like to lift the body. Now notice the elbows want to go really wide. So that's that Gomukhasana work, right? I keep my elbows in, my shoulder blades moving towards my buttocks. And if you want to try to lift, right, you push down into your hands and your feet, lift up, but then come to the crown of the head. I'm going to put mine on my blanket because that's just the setup that I have here, right? And I only have 20% of my head. 80% is in my arms and legs. And if you can't do that, get down. It's not safe for your neck. Elbows back in, knees back in, inner groin down, tone the belly. And if you want to push up, you can, but this is where I'm going to leave it today, is just learning to push up to the crown of the head. Tuck the chin in and come down and release the arms down. And if you can stay here for a moment, just stay here for a moment. We're going to do that one more time. We've done a lot of work to get here, so we're going to touch it one more time. Breathe. If you're like, nope, I don't need to go up again, bridge pose, right? And if you don't want to push all the way up, you don't have to. And this time I'm going to show another variation for us, especially on the arms, since that's been the main focus today. I could take a strap, and actually when we were taught this and when I worked with my main mentor, Carmen, we had to for a really long time. We didn't have to. It's not like she was going to force us, but that's the way she taught us how to learn this, right? Is you take a strap that is the width of your shoulders towards the outer shoulders, and that way your arms can't go wider than shoulder distance. And boy, it's really informative to take that away from yourself, because mine whooped out for years, right, wanting to go sideways. So then you bring it right above the elbows. You bring the hands down. Make sure the feet are hip distance, inner groin rotating forward. And you might just stay right here. This might be your work. And just gently push down and just notice what it would take to try to lift the body. Again, I'm not going to lift up all the way. And even if you do, always stop at the crown of the head and come back to the knees and the elbows, right? So here we go. You might start to push up and then bring the crown of the head down, only 20% of the weight in there. And then now I can't go wide with my elbows, right? I'm getting that help. Soften the shoulder blades towards the buttocks, move the inner groin down. And if you want to push up from there, push up, right? And you can't let the elbows go wide. Tuck the chin in and come all the way down. Hard to talk while you're doing that one. Whew. Take that strap off. Oh. And if you've never tried it with the strap, do it. It's so informative. Take one more breath. And now go ahead and roll off a side of your bolster setup.
And you're going to go ahead and come into child's pose using the bolster. So I'm going to have that bolster about mid-thigh, right? And I'm going to go ahead and start to soften down. And hopefully it feels like you can really let the weight come down here. I'm going to put my head a little higher because I think I'm getting lost in the mic. But you still get a little bit of that flexion in the spine. Just light flexion. We don't want to go full board into it. We just did a lot of upper back bends, yeah? Well, hopefully it was mainly your upper back. If your low back is like, ow, you know you're either not supporting it well or the muscles just aren't strong enough yet to support it well. And then don't go so far. Now, if you want to do one more before we end here, I like this one.
I'm going to bring the blocks in underneath the end closest to me. I have one either on medium or high, depends. And this is sweet with bolster because it's a little sturdier, but you can still get it, right? And then I'm going to, pardon me, I'm going to bring this in. If you have sensitive ribs, be cautious. And I'm going to start to bring my belly down, and then I round down. My butt gets lifted just a little bit. Again, I'm going to leave my voice up for my mic. And you can turn your head one way or the other. Arms by the side. And it just supports the abdomen. Use the breath and notice how you can massage your internal organs, right? Every time you exhale, the bolster setup comes up into your abdominal cavity. I just brought my block down to medium, that one instead of high. Or I guess I brought it to low for medium. I'm a liar. Just meaning I knew I could tell I needed to be just a touch lower for my comfort. So you get to play with that stuff here. There is not one size fits all. And even at that, every day that I come to this practice, so often, I change each pose to accommodate my body that day. Turn your head the other way if you're working with a head turn. About 4 more breaths. And if you feel like you'd like to stay here or take a Shavasana, I encourage you to. Otherwise, hands under the shoulders, come on up. But as promised, I try to make 20 to 30-minute videos with some sort of relaxation in their final relaxation. That's a pet peeve of mine, is when I take a class with a teacher online and you think it's a 20-minute class and then they get to the end and they don't do a Shavasana with you and they're like, you should stay in and take a Shavasana. I'm like, I had 20 minutes. So I always try to do some kind of ending pose, but you can stay in it. And if you're at a place where that would feel good, that's your body telling you something. Rest, friends. Otherwise, here we are in an upright posture. Bring those hands together in front of the chest. Inhale. Bow the head in, taking a moment of gratitude. Noticing how it feels to breathe, where you are emotionally, all of those things at this point. Inhale, lift the head. Exhale, bring the hands down. Open those eyes. Namaste, friends. I brought this work in partly for getting into the lungs, right? And doing a little bit of purifying of the lungs. Just being able to breathe bigger, better, right? Hopefully from not being caved in so much. So be well.